Hello, everyone. My name is Bazby. Welcome to the Movie Police. This is episode 2. Today, we're going to be talking about Blade Runner 2049. This is my all-time favorite movie, if you didn't know. So I'm kind of doing this one pretty quickly for the Movie Police. I'm a huge fan of Blade Runner. The first one and 2049 are both equally tied as my favorite movie of all time. However, I wanted to talk about Blade Runner 2049 because it's the more recent one. And I'm a really big fan of the character K in the movie, who is played by Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling usually plays that brooding character in his movie roles, and this one he really just brings it in. So what is Blade Runner 2049 about? Well, let's go ahead and get into it. But just to let you know that this will be spoilers, or this will have spoilers, I should say. I don't think I'm capable of talking about movies without, ruining it for everyone else. So just be warned. If you don't want to listen to spoilers, just get out of here. If not, okay, well, let's go ahead. So the movie takes place in the year 2049. Agent K is a Blade Runner whose job is, well, if you don't know what a Blade Runner is, it's basically they're basically a mercenary, or not even mercenary. They're basically a cop. They're basically a cop, and their entire purpose is to, as they like to put it in the movies, retire Blade Runner, retire these things called replicants. And replicants are just basically artificial human beings. And they look like humans, they act like humans, they talk like humans, but they're not supposed to feel emotion, because when they feel emotion, it causes issues for them. So in the first movie, they basically have, some of the newer models have like a 4-year timeline or 4-year lifespan, and once the 4 years are up, then they'll just die. They don't want them to have complex emotions or emotions in general, because their entire purpose is to basically be slaves. But they're also illegal on Earth, because in the movie, having having a replicant on Earth is a crime. But you can have them off-world to do, like, whatever they're doing, like going to war or dominating other planets or just whatever. So Agent K is actually a Blade Runner in 2049, and he's also a replicant. He's a newer model replicant. I think it was Nexus 8, and the movie starts off with him executing a older model that is played by Batista. Funny enough, it took me by surprise enough for seeing the movie and I saw Batista. I was like, whoa. But once he executes Batista, he goes down this whole rabbit hole of like finding out that there was a replicant 30 years prior who died giving birth, which is supposed to be impossible. Replicants aren't supposed to be able to reproduce, but this one did. And it just goes down this whole crazy story of like, is this going to break the world? What should I do? Kay is also a very depressed human. For the sake of this, they're basically humans, but he's a very depressed human being. When he goes to work, he has to go through a test. If he can't pass the test, they will kill him. It's just to see if he feels emotions or if he feels bad for what he's doing, because he could go rogue if that's the case. So he has to pass his little test, and then he has to go home. Whenever he goes home, he lives in a really shitty apartment complex, and it's filled with a bunch of just like it doesn't come out and say it, but it just kind of implied that there are a bunch of drug addicts and crazy people in LA. And everyone's very racist towards him. They call him a skin job, which is just like a derogatory term for somebody who is a replicant. Replicants are basically like third-class citizens. They don't really have any rights, like at all. They have purpose, but it's like very minute what they do. Some of them are like pleasure models. They're just basically meant for like rich dudes to go fuck. And just that's their entire purpose, is to just bend over and take it. And then you got K, who's like a special case where he gets to actually be a Blade Runner to go execute other replicants if they are discovered. That's his entire purpose. But when he gets inside of his apartment, he has a AI girlfriend, which is played by the lovely Anna D. I probably can't pronounce her name, but I don't think anybody can. Anna D. Armos. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And her name in the movie is Joy. She is a artificial hologram girlfriend. Her entire purpose is to be whatever he wants her to be. But since he's a replicant as well, they have a very interesting dynamic where he knows he's not real and she wants to be real. But to him, she is real. So it's a very sweet moment between the two. But as he's discovering, he has to go through Jared Leto. Jared Leto plays the role in the movie. He's the guy that creates all the replicants. And he's using them for off-world. And he can only make so many. Even though he's made millions of replicants by this point, he can only make so many, and he wants to basically figure out how to make them reproduce. I'm sorry, I'm getting both my Blade Runner movies like colliding inside my head. But he wants to be able to teach them or like learn how to make them reproduce so that they can do that off-world, and that alone could spread the human race species across the cosmos. He's basically evil Elon Musk, which is funny because a lot of these movies have that. So he has a special replicant named Love, who is supposed to be the best of the best, I guess. It's kind of implied like that. So she's got Love is easily one of the best movie villains ever, too. Like, good God, this woman is lethal. She is ruthless. I mean, you feel bad for her too, because you see a part of the movie where Jared Leto like kills one of the replicants he just had birth to, and Love just cries a little bit. But yeah, and eventually in the movie, Kay's gonna figure out that the child that was born 30 years ago came from Deckard Cain, or Rick Deckard, I should say. Rick Deckard was played by Harrison Ford in the first movie, and he was the main character of the first movie. So Kay ends up meeting up with them thinking that he is the child. So that's like the whole thing, is Kay's having like memories, like false memories. He thinks that he is the child, and he thinks that Harrison Ford is his father. And then he ends up getting kidnapped, and then it becomes a whole like, I have to go save my dad, but then it's not really his dad, as he finds out right before he does it. And Kay ends up getting like basically into a big fight with Love, and Love stabs him, and then he ends up killing Love, but he ends up succumbing to his wounds and dies out in the snow, while Harrison Ford gets to go meet his daughter, because there's a big plot point where Harrison Ford wasn't able to see his daughter ever, so he's never actually met her, because she was too important to everything, and they would have executed her or pulled her apart to figure out how she was born, or pulled him apart. And it's a big like mystery whether or not Harrison Ford is actually a replicant in both movies. It's never comes out and says. In my personal opinion, I don't think so. I think it's just more of like what makes you really human. That's kind of the whole point. So, yeah, I mean, the movie is in my opinion, a complete masterpiece. The music, the visuals, every single scene in this movie can become a wallpaper on your computer or your phone. It is just a visual like buffet. I don't really know how to like give it justice. I love the visuals, and I think that's probably why I favor this one more. Maybe just a little bit. Yeah, I absolutely love Blade Runner 2049. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, you absolutely should. Of course, you need to see the first Blade Runner first, just to get an idea. Both movies are completely different, of course, but I think it'd be better if you did watch the first one. This movie is forever going to be my favorite movie of all time. Of course, tied with the first Blade Runner, but you know what I mean. And this movie is also a reflection on men's mental health. So, yeah. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I've had this conversation with women. Women don't seem to understand, but it is 100% straight up. Like, you feel the gravity and the straight up loneliness that Kay feels in the movie. There's probably the most iconic scene in the movie is towards the end. It's like in the last 15-20 minutes, where he finds out that he's not really the child, he is just a regular replicant, and his AI girlfriend Joy has been killed. So he's just kind of walking down a bridge at night, and then he sees a giant hologram of Joy, and it's the most iconic scene in the entire movie, because she just kind of leans down and says, "Hello there, handsome. You look lonely. I can fix that." But she calls him Joe, which is kind of a reference to earlier in the movie, when Joy, the AI girlfriend, was still alive. She wanted to name him, because K is just a model number, it's not a real name, but she calls him Joe. She goes, "Joe, your name is now Joe. You have a name. You're a real person now." But then the giant Joy hologram at the end of the movie says that he looks like he'd be a good Joe. And then it's kind of implying that it was just pre-programmed and, Joy wasn't real at all. Because you kind of feel like she's really like a real person as a real character. But I don't know. It's just kind of like AI can only go so far. And even though it looks and feels authentic, it's not. But the moment she says that, Ryan Gosling's face just kind of like turns blue. And it's a very heart-wrenching moment, because as a guy who's had a broken heart and, somebody who's been emotionally like destroyed over the years because of that, it hits you home and you feel it straight up. It hits you if you've ever been in that situation. And I think it's safe to say that most men have, as we take this a lot different than women do. So absolutely, that's probably why it's so iconic to me, and why I want to get a tattoo of this scene, and why it's my phone case and my background and everything else. Like, I love it. It is such a good moment. But yeah, anyways, if I had to rate Blade Runner 2049, I'd give it straight up 10 out of 10. Like, I wish I could go over. If I do go over, I'd just say it's a straight up 11 out of 10. This movie is freaking phenomenal. It is amazing. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Definitely, please go see it and let me know what you think down below. So that wraps up for episode 2 of the Movie Police. I will hopefully get better at doing this. I love talking about movies, but I don't really record myself talking about movies too much. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to go about doing this in the future. So with that being said, thank you guys very much. My name is Bazby. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you later.